For someone who maybe has been thinking about doing this kind of work, but has been a little bit hesitant or, I don't know, felt a little uncomfortable, what would you want them to understand that might help them take that step?
One of the things I would really like for them to understand when they're thinking about taking on accent work is that it is safe. That if you come, there is not going to be a change in you, that you are not going to all of a sudden sound like me. I'm not trying to make you me. I'm actually trying to strengthen you and give you whatever it is that you feel like is something that we can help you fulfill within your life or your work or wherever it is that has led you to Google accents or accent reduction or whatever it is that you put into the search. It's something that we do together. It is a lesson plan that is made just for you. It's not a one size fits all. It's something that we try very hard to make sure that each person that comes to us is getting what they need. Not just turn to page 5 for today, and then the next lesson is on page 7. That's not how we approach it. It's very much for that person and for their purpose.
Welcome to Speaking of Talking. Hi, I'm Jenni Steck, voice and speech coach and total voice nerd, here to explore all the ways our voices shape how we connect, lead, and show up in the world. Each week, we'll chat with inspiring leaders, speakers, and experts from all kinds of industries, people who use their voices to move audiences, rally teams, and make an impact. From polished political speeches to spontaneous sideline interviews, we'll break down what works, what doesn't, and why it matters. At Jenni Steck Voice and Speech, we've spent the last decade coaching Fortune 500 executives, broadcasters from CNN, ESPN, CBS News, ABC News, and even prepping Hall of Fame speeches for the NFL and Major League Baseball. And now, I get to bring those conversations and insights straight to you. So if you love talking about talking, you're in the right place. And be sure to subscribe to Speaking of Talking wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss an episode. And check the show notes for helpful tips and tools. I'm so glad you're here. Let's get talking. There is a phrase that comes up a lot in my work, accent reduction. And I find that there's often confusion around what it means. As we've said many times on this podcast, voice and speech are so deeply tied to identity. Does changing an accent ultimately change a person? Do they somehow lose themselves when they take on this work? That's exactly where today's conversation starts. Today, I'm speaking with Jessica D. Turner, a speech coach and accent specialist on our team at Jenni Steck Voice and Speech Services. Jessica's also an actor and voiceover artist with more than 2 decades of experience helping people communicate with clarity and confidence across cultures and professional spaces. She grew up in Mississippi, got her BFA at SMU, and spent years drilling her own sounds before she ever coached anyone else on theirs. She knows this work from the inside, and she has a way of talking about it that cuts through the discomfort pretty quickly. In this conversation, we talk about what American English pronunciation training is and is not, what happens in a session, and why the music of a language matters just as much as individual sounds, and also what it takes to shift a pattern that has been in your body for decades. We also get into something that I find genuinely interesting, what it means to help someone make significant changes in their communication without losing themselves in the process. Let's get talking. Today, I'm speaking with Jessica D. Turner. She's one of the coaches on our team. She's a speech coach and accent specialist with, guess what? How many years, Jessica? More than 20 years
No!
of experience helping people communicate with clarity and confidence. across cultures and professional spaces. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about the work you do? What path led you to where you are now?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, first of all, thank you for having me on your podcast, Jenny. I'm so excited about this podcast. I think that it's going to be great for people to hear and great for people to understand more of what you do and by through that, by what I do and how to have healthy conversations and a healthy instrument. So, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. Yes, I started out as an actor. I started acting as a child. And through that, I come from a family where my older sister is also a performer. She is an opera singer. So I grew up going with her and seeing her at the theater. And I remember when I was 7, my parents took me to see Cats on Broadway, and that changed my life. So I I had to be the white cat. So I went the acting route. And in acting school, you start studying voice and speech. I went to a school in Dallas, Texas. I went to Southern Methodist University and got my BFA.
As did I.
I know that's where I met
How we met.
you.
Yes.
I know. And we were not in the same class, so we didn't have classes together, but
Just
we
say
did
it.
know
It's
each
because I'm
other.
old. It's because I'm much,
You are
much
not
older.
old. Oh my goodness. She's 2 years, 2 years. And in that, I really started learning about sounds and how they can be effective for your communication. When you have specific sounds that you can modify and make them work for your performance, whether it's an accent, if you need to put an accent, like if you are doing an Irish show, having an Irish accent, or like me, because I grew up in Mississippi. And when I got to undergrad, I had a strong Mississippi accent. Now, my parents were not from Mississippi, they were from Texas. So I had this weird combination of Texas, Mississippi accent that I really had to work on. So much so that when I got to the BFA, they recorded me for the Mississippi accent. And when I went to my graduate program, they also recorded me. So I had not been able to modify it as much as I needed to for the professional space. So when I got to graduate school, that's where I really started working. Lots of drills, lots of mirror work, lots of placement exercises, and really fell in love with it and considered continuing on after graduation to be a teacher, to be a voice teacher. But then I started getting acting work. So I went that direction instead. But that is what has led me to this point is all of that training. And I try to bring all of it to my interactions with clients. The idea that your voice and your sounds can work for you in whatever given situation or performance that you are in. It's something that I love doing. And I love when the students are able to start using it for their own advantage. It's great. It's wonderful to witness.
Tell me more about something you said, which is that when you got to grad school, you hadn't been able to neutralize, I will say, that accent
Yeah.
as much as you needed to.
Mhm.
Why was it something you needed to understand and be able to shift in and out of?
Yes. So within the acting world, there is what is called the International Phonetic Alphabet or the IPA. And I smile because I know you know all about it. The IPA, if one goes to a dictionary, if you go to an American dictionary or the Oxford dictionary and you look up a word, right after the word are these little symbols. And those symbols are each a sound. They may look like a letter, they might look like A, but it's actually the ah sound. When you are in acting school, at least when I was there, that was something that we learned. And the thought was if you learned those sounds, you would be able to then learn any accent by changing the specific sounds to make that accent. When I got to graduate school, I still had a lot of the Northern Mississippi accent in my voice. So playing someone from Boston in a play or a film or on TV was not going to be easy for me unless I could somehow modify my Northern Mississippi accent to meet the Boston accent. So that is more of what I mean. But at the time during acting school, the goal was to have a, like you said, neutralized tone, to not have much of any accent, which is difficult.
Exactly. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
from Tennessee, small town, and
right.
face similar challenges.
Mhm.
So that leads me, Jessica, to kind of an uncomfortable question that sometimes comes up about what is
Sure.
often termed accent reduction.
Mm.
I had a conversation with a British actor once who was like, "What do you mean accent reduction? Who says that yours is the one that we should all be adopting?" But
Absolutely. Yeah.
sometimes I like to refer to it as American English pronunciation,
Mhm.
because what we are kind of helping people with is kind of the American English sound, which is different than the British sound for many of the
It is.
pronunciations for a couple of different reasons
Mhm.
that I'll have you get into. But one of
Yes.
the questions that bothers me sometimes is, let's say we have a client who's struggling to be understood, and we're not talking about actors necessarily. We're talking about business people or
No.
teachers or whoever.
Yes. Absolutely.
They might be Googling accent reduction. So that's the term that is often searched.
Mhm.
What is your relationship with that phrase?
Accent reduction.
Yeah.
Yeah, my relationship with the phrase accent reduction is I understand why we use those two words. It's easy. It's easy to put something that is actually quite complicated under those that two-word banner, accent reduction. But as I tell people that I'm talking to them, I'm not going to be taking away your accent. Our accents are the accumulation of everywhere we have lived and of anyone we have lived with. So we have aspects of our parents or our siblings, anyone that we love and have been around for a long time. We take that with us in our accent. And we hold as individuals our sounds very personal and dear to our heart. And I get that. I do. So, what I am actually trying to do is give my client tools so that when they are in a business setting, when they are in the courtroom, or they are speaking with a patient, they are able to be understood the first time by an American speaker, or I should even say a speaker from the States, because Canada and Mexico are very different. And so it is really focused on people who live in the States when you are working with them and communicating with them. So my goal is to always give you the tools so that you can go in, modify a sound that perhaps you have had to repeat a lot. And people tell me when we first meet that that's one of the biggest frustrations is that because we work with very high achieving people, they, from their home country, have all the sounds that they need, all of the words that they need, all of the colors that they need to communicate exactly what they want to say. And English might be their second, third, or fourth language. And when they have to communicate just with English, they don't have that. And if someone is asking them to repeat, it gets in the way of what they are trying to say and communicate. So my goal is always that you get a tool belt. At the end, you get a tool belt where hopefully you have all of these ways to modify your sound for your listener. And it is for someone from the state. Mhm.
You brought up a good point. It's not that you're trying to erase that history, and it's not even that
Mhm.
necessarily when they go home with their family they have to speak that way, right?
Correct.
It's
Yes.
in a way. I, I don't want to say it's a performance because I know that you teach this in a way that feels authentic. So they don't
Yes.
feel like they're layering on some kind of fake sounds.
Right.
You're building
Mhm.
awareness. I mean, I've had clients will say, "We don't even have that sound in my language. I didn't even know that exists."
Absolutely.
And it's like learning a new
Yes.
word. Suddenly, you learn a new
Mhm.
word and then suddenly you hear it everywhere. It's like, did this word just come into existence? No, I just only learned about it. Now I hear it everywhere.
Yes.
Same with sounds. They might be like, wow, now I really hear it. I actually understand American
Mhm.
speakers better sometimes.
Yes. Yes. And they do, they become very aware of how who they are interacting with is using their mouth and is using their sounds. And I always say, too, if I were to need to go and live and work in Italy, and I was learning Italian or I had Italian, but it had an American accent associated with it, that I would need their help to know what sounds I needed to make for better communication because that would be very important in my profession and in many others' profession. So I feel that it gives them more freedom to be able to choose what they want to present to in their professional life. Mhm.
One thing that I've noticed about a particular group of clients that you've been working with is that they their English is their first language, but they're coming from a country that is not America, that is not um, UK, and so the way that they pronounce English is very different than an American, and can sometimes be very challenging for an American to understand. So they have all of the vocabulary. The pronunciation is a little off, but then on top of that, one of the things I find so interesting about this work is you're also talking about the music. So sometimes the pronunciation might
Mhm.
be
Mhm.
fine, but still to the American ear, something sounds off. How do you address
Mhm.
the music of the language, or how
Mhm.
would you even describe that?
Yes, and that's great. I try to speak about that using that very word, the music, because each language has its own music, and I do this a lot. Each language has its own rhythm, cadence, and stress. And when you are speaking or working with someone whose first language is English, and you're trying to help them with their communication with their American clients or the people that they are working with, then you really have to show what it is that makes it different from each other. And that it does get very frustrating. And it is something that I know clients come to me with is why do I have to change? Why I speak English? Why do I have to change my sounds? Why can't the listener change how they are listening? And that's valid. And I would love to give a big presentation about how to listen in a different way. And that would be a great thing. But until that becomes something that people seek out, unfortunately, we have to work on their English, even though it is English. And I just want to make sure that they know that their accent isn't wrong. It's not that we in America have the right English accent, and therefore they have the wrong English accent. They're both right. It's just helping with the communication so that someone won't say, "Can you please repeat that?"
Or there could be some misunderstanding.
Yes. And a lot of times with those people that do speak English for their first language, they just have a different accent. The it's the stress. They might stress a word. The sounds might be right, but the stress on the word might be different. Or we as Americans have dropped some sounds within that word, and they are using all the sounds within that word. So there's power in knowing that, oh, if I can stress this a different way, they will understand me and I can move on. There's power in that, in coming to something and thinking, I can do this many different ways. And I can do it many different ways so that you can understand what I'm trying to get across to you.
Oh, I like that. Let's say someone comes to you and wants to take on this work. Can you talk me through what the process is like? What's the first
Sure.
step?
When you say take on the work, do you mean as a teacher or do you mean as a client?
As a client, they decided
Okay,
I'm tired of having to repeat myself, or
sure.
I really think this would give me an edge, help me move up the
Yes.
career ladder.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
they've decided to take some action, and they come
Mhm.
to you and they say, "Okay, Jessica, how do I start?"
Yes. So with our program, with the Jenny Steck Voice and Speech program, we have set packages where there are specific amounts of sessions. And because this is not something that can be done within one session or two sessions, it's going to take some time. And I always tell people that it is like learning an instrument or learning another language, that you have to drill, you have to do your scales, you have to go to the bar if you are in ballet, and you have to put in some time. So I always try to make sure that when I begin with somebody, that they understand that there might be some time of frustration because it doesn't happen as quickly as they would like for it to. And how much the client puts into it, into their work with the, I always call it homework, but it's not that scary. It's just things, here are 10 sentences, and why don't you go over the 10 sentences we went over today? And then I will hear the sound again. So there might be some frustration, but once we get through the frustration and get into our rhythm, then that's where things really start to work. And in terms of what happens during a session, I always like to start each session with just talking. About 5 to 7 minutes of just, hi, how are you? How was your week? What happened? And I like to do this because when we are working together, we have maybe sentences that we go over together or words that we go over together. And those words may not be the words that you use all the time. And when we are speaking in conversation, I can pick up on phrases that you might be saying or specific words, and I will write them down. And if I have a question about them, we'll go over them. And then I like to keep a list of what I call high frequency words, which are words that someone might use that I never use, but they use a lot. So if I'm working with a physician, and even within that, if it's an ER physician or a dermatologist, Those are going to be very different high frequency words. And so we might go over some of those. And then we talk about how their week has been. And if they have any words or phrases that they didn't understand or they felt they mispronounced, then we go over those. And then through that, we start to work on other sounds. And we start building a list of the sounds that we have worked on. So as we are speaking and as we are going through our lesson for that day, if I hear in their speech those sounds that we've previously gone over, then we will go over those again and just keep adding, keep adding. So the goal is always to get them into conversation, get those sounds into our conversation. That is always the goal. Mhm.
So you are interested in their week and in their lives, but you're also
Yes.
there's a secret mission there where you're assessing them at the same time. You're not just making small talk. You're
Right.
also
And yes, yes,
evaluating.
yes. And I tell them this. I tell them this because a lot of times I don't know why I'm asking all of these questions about their week. And we're not just jumping in. And I tell them, no, we actually have jumped in. This is, and it allows me to get to know them better. I get to know better what they need in their communication. Because a lot of times I have clients who will go from one meeting in Spanish and then immediately to another meeting in English. And how to do that transition. Or they've been speaking in their home language all morning and then they log on with me and we're speaking in English. And it's just very informative for me to know what they need from me.
This is a great example. I have also run into clients like that, switching from language to language because they
Yes,
work in a global company.
it's fascinating.
Do you give them strategies for how to help their mind and body get ready for the next call? What kinds of things do you recommend?
Absolutely. To make that switch, and we can use the example of going from Spanish to English. So I have a client who works from home, but her day is working with Mexico and working with the States. That is her day. So it is constant shift from Spanish to English, English to Spanish. And she finds because Spanish is her first language, she finds that that switch is very difficult when it's like this. So what we do is make a list of sounds that she can look at that we have been over and we have been working on. She can look at, and it's usually about 4 sounds, and then remind herself of that. And then I recommend centering herself, closing her eyes, taking a big breath, an exhale, and then clicking join. And just getting those 10 seconds to remind yourself that you're going into English, centering yourself to remind yourself, okay, I'm going to be using these sounds, these shapes, and then pressing join. So that it's not just one to the other, that there
Right?
is that 10 seconds for her where she can then press join, be centered, and then be the great VP that she is and speak in English.
Honestly, it's not that much different from what actors do. I remember being in shows
Right.
where I would have to go from Irish to English to French to one
Mhm.
other that I can't remember now, Italian maybe.
Mm.
And to help myself before I had to go back on stage in that other accent, I would
Yes.
say a couple of the lines or do I had a
Mhm.
phrase, a tongue twist or something that would get my mouth ready for the next
Yes.
type of sound.
Yes. Yes. And tongue twisters are good for that too. Or a 2-word phrase. I know when I was really working on modifying my Southern accent, it was pin pen, pin pen. Pin pen.
Not
Because,
pan.
no, this would be a pen instead of a pen. So those two are very good. I'm actually working on a show right now, an Agatha Christie show. And there are many characters because the actors are playing many different characters. And a lot of them do exactly what you said. They will come in and be Irish and then leave, and 5 seconds later come back in and be British. And that's exactly what I'm telling them to do, our little two word phrases. And they say it's really been helping. So that's good.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
I know that as you're starting off with a new client, there's an evaluation that they have to go through.
Yes.
What is that?
Mhm.
What's the point?
So the evaluation is actually very important for me. It is so that I can hear the sounds you are making to say these English words as you are saying them now. So, what that informs me, because I'm writing them down in IPA, those little symbols. And what that tells me are the main sounds that we need to work on. Because chances are it's not going to be every single sound in the dialect of the US. It's not going to be that. But you will have sounds that would be the most beneficial for you. So if it's the L sound or the R sound, those are some challenging sounds, those two. Then I will know specifically what words are the hardest for you to communicate with and what sounds. And then when the evaluation is over, excuse me, I will go away and make a lesson plan that's specifically for that person. Because if I have somebody from Nigeria and they are from northern Nigeria, they're going to sound different than someone from southern Nigeria. And so even though they're both Nigerian, the sounds, a lot of them will be the same, but there's going to be sounds that are not the same.
Just like
And I,
being from the North in the States and the South.
exactly. And
Boston's
so
very different than Mississippi.
very different.
Yeah.
And so I need to know that. So for me to be able to be a good coach for my client, I take them through this evaluation. And I always tell them it's not a test. I am not testing you. What I actually need you to do is sound exactly like yourself. Don't sound the way you think I might want you to sound. Sound like how you are. And it's just words and sentences and maybe a story, very short story or paragraph. And it's so that I can know exactly where we need to go together.
That's interesting that it's words and then sentences and then paragraphs.
Mhm.
I bet you find that sometimes they're fine at word level, but
Yes.
when it gets more complex and they're talking a
Yes.
little faster,
Right.
the
Right.
muscle
And that,
memory isn't
yes.
there.
Right. Exactly. And the words that are on either side of the word that you have been practicing, the other sounds inform that sound or that word. So when you're just saying it on its own, you might get all the sounds, you might be exactly where you want to be. But then when we start introducing it into a sentence, then it's hard to get there, possibly from where you've been the word before. So it's just another challenge. And then the goal of going into a paragraph is the same, but the paragraph is kind of a leaping point for conversation. And my goal is to always get that sound into your conversation. And that's where me chatting you up a bit comes into play. Yeah.
And the paragraph and then conversation also reveal to you the music, right? Where are they putting
Yes.
stress? And is that
Mhm.
causing any kind of complication with them being understood?
Yes. And music and stress and cadence are very informative to how you get across in a business setting or with clients or patients or whomever it is that you are speaking to. One thing that Americans do that's very different from any other English speaking country, except for maybe Canada, is we like to go down. We like to go down when we speak. And Americans find that as a sign of strength and confidence to go down. So the music actually might start up here, but then as we start speaking, we go down and we make our point. And that is very different from other countries. A lot of other countries go up when they speak. So the music might be da 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 da, da 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 da. And for Americans, we hear that as maybe a question, or maybe that they're not quite sure with what they're saying, when they're absolutely 100% sure. So that is something that I like to go over too, is just how can the cadence, how can the rhythm and the music be used in your advantage when you're communicating with somebody from the States? So that they take you seriously. They know that you are as smart as you are, and they get it. Mm-hmm.
I love the conversation around stress and emphasis. I heard this story on NPR, and I'll have to find, if I find it, I'll put it in the show notes, but it was a story not about what we do necessarily. It was more about brain science and linguists trying to figure
Sure.
out how a person decodes language that they're hearing. And how can you tell when one word ends and another word begins? And they did studies of the brain and watched which parts of the brain light up. And one of the things they started to understand is that we decode language based on changes in volume, most specifically. And I may be remembering this not fully correctly, but that stuck with
Sure,
me
yeah.
is that, and we tend to, and we're emphasizing a syllable in a word like butter. That first syllable is stronger than the second syllable, and that's
Mm-hmm.
a combination of things, partly the length of the syllable, how long I hold it out, but also the volume. And so they were starting to notice that the volume switch was an indicator of, oh, this is a strong syllable, weak syllable. It helped people start to decode language. And
Mm-hmm.
that made me think about why Americans might have trouble understanding a non native English speaker whose stress patterns are different. It's because
Yes.
we're not hearing what we're expecting to hearing. I want to hear
Yes.
butter, but you're saying butter,
Right.
butter.
Uh-huh.
In my brain, it takes me a second. It's I hear you say it, then I have to stop, go back, figure out what you meant, and then go on. And by then, you're already two sentences ahead of me. So part of it
Yes.
is just understanding that the emphasis you're putting on a syllable or even within the sentence can really catch us off guard because it's different than what is expected. And it just
Yes.
takes us a second.
Yes. And when you're the speaker and what you said was important and you needed them to hear it, but they're still thinking about butter.
Right? They're caught up on butter.
And that can be very frustrating. And then you have to repeat yourself. And yes.
And you're like,
Mhm.
why are you thinking about butter? I've already moved on to how to change the world.
I've moved on. Yes. Exactly. Exactly. So that I can totally understand where the frustration lies. Mhm.
And with
Yes.
sentences, honestly, I try to reassure sometimes the clients that I'm working with that this is something that even native speakers of American English sometimes struggle with
Yes.
stress. And they will also come to us because their message isn't hitting home or
Absolutely.
they seem, they get told they're monotone. It's
Yes.
really the same problem. You're not
Yes.
highlighting for your listener what's important in a way
Yes.
that's useful. So we talk
Yes.
about pacing and volume and emphasis.
Mhm.
This all of those same things. We also work with
Mhm.
our American born, American English speaking clients on some of the same issues. So they're really getting
Yes.
not only the accent work, but they're also getting like public speaking training with you,
Yes,
etc.
absolutely. Yes. And I do. I love public speaking too. And a lot of the accent reduction, if we say that, clients will also work on their presentations with me so
Great.
that they know they've already been through it with someone who can say, okay, in this section, let's just clarify this either with the choice of words or with a phrase or with sounds. And it really does help with confidence to be able to walk into a room and you know you've already been over it with your coach and you've already fleshed out the things that may not come across as well as you would have liked for them to. Now they do. And it just gives people the confidence that they need to be their amazing selves because they've gotten to this point in their career or in their life where they're doing something for themselves to better themselves. And I get to be a part of that. And I don't take it lightly. I don't. I find that it's a responsibility and they're letting me do it.
I know that sometimes we have clients who come to us not of their own free will, like maybe their manager or their boss. Someone has said
Yes.
to them that, I really want you to do this. This is going to be really
Yes.
good for you. So they come to us maybe a little bit skeptical.
Yes.
How do you reassure them?
That's a great question. Now, it's not everyone we work with, of course, but there are people who do come to us and their bosses have said, this will help. And a lot of times they do a lot of phone work or they do things in their job where their voice is their only instrument, their mouth is not seen. And I think for anyone, this would help if that is the case. But I do try to reassure them after the evaluation. If they can do the evaluation with me, and then I can walk through a few of those sounds and show them a comparison of a couple of the sounds and why the comparison is important. Because if you are saying the word lost, like I am lost, but you add a different sound to that, the American might hear last or lust. And that is something very different. Those three words have very different meanings. And so for clarity, and so that you can get across exactly what you want to get across, we need to learn those three sounds. If this is in your home accent. And once I show a comparison, usually the client understands more of what we're going to be doing. And they will say, yes, I always have a hard time with getting these across. And then a light bulb goes off, and then they'll have other words, and this word, and this word. And so then we're able to build, and they see that there is value in it outside of their boss wanting them to do it, that it's an opportunity, not something that they have to do.
I love that. I mean, it's tricky,
It is tricky.
but you're right. Once you start to build that awareness and build that level of trust,
Yes.
the relationship goes a lot better, right? I mean, I think that's a huge piece of what you do and what you're so good at is building relationships and building
Oh,
trust.
well, thank you.
So they know that there's no dumb question.
No,
They can ask
no.
you about, well, what does that really mean?
Mhm,
How am I being
mhm,
perceived? I mean, they know
mhm.
they're going to get honest feedback, but also you are very kind and you reinforce what they're doing really well too.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I take it, like I said, I take it to heart that because our voice is so personal, it's like when you record yourself and you hear yourself back and you think that's not me and you don't like it. It's because we all have the idea of what we sound like and what makes us us. And when somebody gets in there and starts trying to modify it, I understand that, or I try to be very empathetic to it, that I am not trying to change who you are. I have no interest in that because who you are is fantastic. What I'm trying to help with is your communication so that you can be more free within your communication. And if we come up and it's too much, we'll go on to something else for a while and we might come back to it. But I have had people get emotional about sounds, not in a bad way, just in, I don't know where this emotion is coming from.
Oh, wow.
And it will surprise them. And usually, if we talk about it, we'll figure it out. And we're able to, maybe they've had a hard time with a word from that sound. And when they were a child, something happened. I don't know. But we do try to work through it together. And I always try to make sure they know, and I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm not going to judge you. No question or what you bring is going to be looked down upon. It all informs us, and it informs this journey that we're on together for your clarity of communication with who you want to communicate with, and it just happens to be Americans, and that happens to be what I do.
You mentioned that in the evaluation, you have them read through words, sentences, paragraphs, and you're recording those, right? Most of the time.
Most of the time.
Is it
Mhm.
exciting for them to have that baseline so that when they get to the end of the program, you can hear before and after samples of yourself?
Yes. And I do give people the option. Is it okay for me to record this? And sometimes they don't want it to be recorded. And that's their option. And if that's where we're going, that's fine. I do have a client I've been working with for over 2 years. And when he first came, he's from originally from Vietnam, and he had a very strong Vietnamese English accent or attached to his English. So much so that he was not presenting, he was not speaking up, he was not talking. And because he is who he is and a forward thinker and somebody who wants to move forward in his profession, he sought out some accent work. And now we work together still just about once a week. And now he's giving presentations. He's called on to give teaching to other people who are coming up in his profession. And he answers questions. He's in front of major clients. And we listened to him about a month ago and of how he sounded when he came originally. And the difference is amazing. It really is. Now, he has put in a ton of work. This was his goal. And now, more than accent, we work on his presentations and we work on maybe phrases that he doesn't know that Americans say and just making sure he's getting those correct. And he's a delight. He's an absolute delight. So we have done that recently.
I can imagine some people at home saying, 2 years? Is it going to take me two
Yeah.
years?
It's not.
What's the typical? I mean, I think one of our packages could be completed in maybe 3 months, and that's meeting every other week.
Yes.
Is that right? No,
No.
6
It would
months.
be
Sorry.
meeting. Yes. It would be meeting every week for 3 months.
You're right.
Yes. Mhm. Which is done. Which is done.
Also done sometimes. Let's say we give them that 6-month period. Realistically, what kind
Mhm.
of change could someone expect?
Yes. That's a great question. When someone starts with this program or with working with one of us on their accent, it really has to do with their commitment to it. And we, because we're meeting with them once a week or once every other week, we are able to make that connection. We're able to teach them the placements. We're able to get them to where they understand it mentally and also physically. They feel the placement of it. But if they log off with us and then they don't do it again until they see us again, they're not going to move forward in the way that they might want to. So I always recommend at least 20 minutes a day. And it doesn't have to be sitting down with the sentences and the words. It can be speaking to yourself in the mirror as you get ready and going over some of those sounds and those words. Being in the car, driving to work, and going over those sounds, memorizing some sentences and saying the sentences and going over those sounds, recognizing it in your coworkers, your American born coworkers that speak English to them. Maybe, oh, I see how they're using their tongue, or I see how they're going down in their inflection, and then trying to do it. All of that counts. It's having the energy toward your goal and trying to incorporate it into your everyday. Now, sitting down and drilling is fantastic. But I do know from being a busy person myself that sometimes that can't happen. But every single step you do, putting energy towards your goal, you're going to move forward.
And why do you think that a little bit of practice every day is more valuable than cramming 2 hours on the weekend?
Well,
Or
that's a
is it?
great, that's great. Well, for me, it's not. Now, that's how I learn. So I don't want to say that not everyone is like me. And sometimes cramming is a good way for someone to learn, but not usually, not typically. Usually, people need a little bit every day. And I'll go back to that instrument analogy I was saying earlier, where if you rehearse your, let's say, piano, and you are playing your scales every day and you're figuring out how to use your fingers to play that scale. And maybe you keep playing the wrong note. So you figure out how to get the right note at that point. That is going to happen and stick with you more if you give it a little bit every day. And it'll also help with frustration because then you have time. You have time to get to your goal so that by the time I see you again, your scale is nice and smooth and exactly where you wanted to get it. So the cramming would be hard to maintain. You might be able to do it for our lesson, but after our lesson, it's not going to be in that part of your brain where it has stuck into your long term memory.
I think the example of the piano is so perfect because we're relying on muscle memory, right?
Yes,
It's that muscle memory. I don't even have to look at the keys. I know exactly where my fingers are going because it's
right.
so ingrained. It's now automatic. And
Yes,
what we're changing in the way someone is pronouncing a TH, for example, maybe they've always made a
right.
D instead of a TH when they're speaking
Mhm,
American English. You are shifting the placement, as you say, is the tongue going from behind the teeth to the tongue being on the teeth. And that
mhm.
is a muscular pattern that you are retraining. And the
Yes,
only way to make lasting change is muscle memory and practice, drilling that movement over and over until it becomes automatic and you don't have to think about it.
yes, right. And I find with that sound too, that there's some cultural things with it that maybe you come from a culture where showing your tongue is considered very rude.
Yes.
And here I am asking you to do that every day of your life.
Yeah.
Yes. And so there's that adjustment as well. which is going to take an incremental amount to get used to. It's not something that you can just do in one big chunk. It's going to take a while. And I always find that my clients start to notice it in other people, and that actually gives them some relief. It's just as Americans, we're so used to it, we don't even clock it. We don't even notice that someone has showed us the tip of their tongue. But in other cultures, that can feel very wrong.
Right. And that's a whole other conversation probably is,
Yes.
how can we accommodate that in some way if it feels
Mhm.
so much like an insult, like the behavior seems so wrong.
Yes.
Are there ways we can compensate?
Yes. And there is. There absolutely is. The goal in the example you gave, the goal is to not have them say the D or the T. So if we can make a compensation so that it is a little bit out, maybe not all the way so you can see it, but you're not hitting that D or the T, then absolutely.
Since you work with actors too and helping them learn accents for a role,
Yes.
um, I often have
Uh-huh.
this question come to me about, oh, well, actors, it's different. They just, they can just learn it and go and do it. But what I think they don't recognize is that the actors too are putting in a lot of work.
Yes, they
I
are.
mean, to learn, let's say you have to do Australian for a movie, how many weeks prior or months prior to that movie do you think they start?
It depends. But I would think at least a month. At least a month is depending on the budget, right? But it's one that is seamless and that adds to their performance. Because the last thing you want to do as an actor is go out there and be thinking about your sounds. You want those sounds to be, it's like when you're running a race, you don't want to be thinking about your feet. You want to just be running the race. And so when you step out on stage or you step out in front of a camera, you want to be thinking about what you want in that scene or how to get the person that you are talking to a certain place. You don't want to be thinking about your O's or your R's. And in order to do that, you're going to have to start really a lot before the initial film date or the opening of the show. So right now, since I'm in working right now
Yeah.
on a show, we started about 5 weeks and we could do it longer. It could have been 10 weeks
Well,
with
and
the amount.
you might have a mix of experience too. You might have actors who've done that accent before or
Yes.
actors who have never done an accent before. And
Right.
so you figuring out what
Yes.
each of them needs.
Mhm.
Back to the muscle
Exactly.
memory thing, I always think about Austin Butler
Yes.
and
Uh
how
huh.
people teased him, right? Because he had a hard time letting go of Elvis. In my mind, it made sense because he put
Yes.
in so much time and effort. I believe, do you remember the story? I think he was working on it during the pandemic.
I think he did that for a year, maybe longer.
So putting all of that muscle memory into place is also hard to let go.
Yes. And apparently he had to go back to relearn his initial sounds because he immersed himself so much in the Elvis placement. Mhm.
You've talked to me through, talked to me through the process of how you teach uh, what a client could expect on their journey. I want to kind of close out with a conversation, having you reflect on any client moments. I mean, you talked about this a little bit with your client from Vietnam, but anything that you saw shift, a realization that someone had, or something that just has kind of stuck with you.
Sure, yes. So I have worked with many Catholic priests, and it's wonderful because when some priests come over, they are from different countries. And it is very, very important for them to communicate with their parish. And it is something that is on their heart to be able to communicate with their English speaking parish members. And I had a priest come at the beginning of a session with his prayer book and his blessing book because he was going to go and give some last rites to someone and he wanted to get them right so that she would be able to understand all of the sounds. And so that's what we did that day is we went over the last rites to make sure that he was clear for her. Because when you're in a situation like that, it's high stakes, high stress for the person, for the family, possibly for him. And he wanted to make sure that he was able to fulfill this for her. And I will never forget that because he trusted me enough to do it. We went over it, set it back. He felt much better. And he felt like he was going to be able to do this for his American parishioner. And he's also brought other things too, but this was the one where I saw that it gave him confidence that he could achieve this for his parishioner. And he was able to go in knowing that she was going to have the comfort she needed. So that's probably the biggest one.
That is incredible.
It is incredible.
So such a meaningful encounter for him, for you, knowing how much that he cared so much and wanted to do the best job he could.
Yes. And he is from Mexico. And his parish, he performs mass in both English and Spanish. And so he had given last rites a lot in Spanish, but he just wanted to make sure, because this was soon after his new appointment here in the States. He just wanted to make sure that he was doing these things correctly for them.
Wow. For someone who is listening, who maybe has been thinking about doing this kind of work, but has been a little bit hesitant or, I don't know, felt a little uncomfortable, what would you want them to understand that might help them take that step?
That one of the things I would really like for them to understand when they're thinking about taking on accent work is that it is safe. That I take, especially with how I do it, and I know how you do it as well too, that if you come, there is not going to be a change in you, that you are not going to all of a sudden sound like me. I'm not trying to make you me. I'm actually trying to strengthen you and give you whatever it is that you feel like is something that we can help you fulfill within your life or your work or wherever it is that has led you to Google accents or accent reduction or whatever it is that you put into the search. And that it's something that we do together. And I'm using the word modified a lot, but it is a lesson plan that is made just for you. It's not a one size fits all. It's something that we try very hard to make sure that each person that comes to us is getting what they need. Not just turn to page 5 for today, and then the next lesson is on page 7. That's not how we approach it. It's very much for that person and for their purpose.
Jessica, thank you so much for the conversation
Thank
today.
you. Yes.
It's just such a delight to hear about your philosophies and the way you view this work. And I think it's reassuring.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. As I said, I don't take it lightly. It is something that I feel I can help with. And I really take the clients, I tell them, once you're my client, you're always my client. And even after we're done, if a year later or 2 years later, you need something, I'm here. So it's a relationship.
Thanks so much for joining me on Speaking of Talking. If you loved this episode, I'd be so grateful if you'd leave a review, share it with a friend, or send it to someone who geeks out on voice just as much as we do. For more tips, tools, and behind-the-scenes goodies, head to the show notes or visit us at jennysteck.com. I'm Jenni Steck. And remember, your voice isn't just how you sound, it's how you show up. Own it, trust it. And let's keep talking, because we've got a lot to say.